All right, what's happening, everybody? It's me, Robert Phoenix. I am back for another edition of the Astro Weather. And thank you for being patient, ever so patient, as we get it together here on this Tuesday morning, the 4th of February. And we're in a sprint now through February. But last year we had 29 days. Remember that? Last year was the good old leap year. Speaking of leaps, come on up here. Leaping right into the show is you know who, the Astro Weather Cat. Yeah, that's right, the Astro Weather Cat. Yeah, yes, there she is. Do you know that Scotland is talking about banning cats? Can you believe that shit? What is up, Claire? Come on, get those people psychically aligned here. Cats are our friends. They are our friends. What would we be without cats and dogs? I love dogs. Dogs are great. The old cat here, right? The old cat is the old familiar. So I'll talk about that later on 15 Minutes of Flame. Yeah, they're talking about banning cats in Scotland. That's right. We have to have a Scotland boycott. Absolutely. Yeah. You're a good girl. No cats equals many cats. They tried to kill you off back in the day. They said you were evil, that you were property of witches. Well, part of that's true. I eat mine with pepper and salt and pepper. Tom eats cats with salt and pepper. Wow. Tom, you got a diet thing going on here that I don't know about. Maybe that's why all of these cats are showing up in the backyard. All right. Well, welcome to the show. Welcome to the demonstration, whatever you want to call it, the Astro Weather. Well, why don't we just jump into it since I'm running a bit late? Greetings to all of you, wherever you are. Thank you for being here. I know you can be spending your morning with, I don't know, is there another astrologer you can spend your morning with? Maybe. But you choose to spend it with me. And I thank you for that. Apparently, Orlando's sun is doing somewhat better. This is what I was told this morning. So, congratulations on that. You definitely want to make sure that stay up to date on the young man's condition. Let's see what else we have here. Let's do that. Okay, we got that. We're good to go. Why don't we do some weather? Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Let's make it happen. Yeah. Yeah. Can you make it happen, Peachy? Peachy, I'm going to have you do the astro weather today. Tonight, we have the sun at 13 degrees Aquarius. Over there, there's Mars. It's still retrograde. All right, enough using your cat as a prop. Well, yes, things are starting to sort out just a little, right? Just a bit here, just in terms of the. Let me zoom in here. Need another zoomage. Well, we still have Jupiter. Mars is still direct. Jupiter's still direct, and we're just waiting. Uranus has gone direct. How's that going for people? Are you finding things working again? I'm telling you, man, Uranus in my sixth house has been a menace. Now, luckily, it's entwined with my sun here, and so that I should be getting some interesting traction, some innovation, which is why we're going after the new website. But Uranus in my sixth has just been havoc on the everyday world. Just unexpected, little quirky, weird shit always coming up. Let's talk about the moon. The moon is always kind of the headliner of the weather, isn't it? was talking with my good friend last night, Jolie, for an hour or so, and we were talking at length about the moon. And I was talking about how the moon just isn't real. Right? It is and it isn't. Like we see it, it's there, and we gawk at it. Oh, look at the moon. Look how big it is tonight. Look at this. Oh, there's Venus. Look at Venus just right off the bottom tip of that beautiful crescent moon, or when it's big and full and just bodacious, right? The moon is always part of the conversation. But there are things that are just completely unnatural about the moon. And yet it takes up a space in our charts and in our lives, and it's a pretty important space. Today it's in Aries, so it's third decan, as they say, putting up in the Sagittarius decan, and it is conjunct Chiron. We had a moon Chiron conjunction today. And I'd say yesterday was the height of impatience, and today we are still dealing with some you people working with home repairs. You may want to sip on a little more of that patience tea, although it's going to get better. Mars retrograde in Cancer is great for home repairs. It's always better if we have a harmonic placement to the moon. So by tomorrow, we'll have this moon going into Taurus, and over the next few days, again, we're just talking home repair, right? Home repair. We're not talking about emotional repair. That's a different story. But home repair can be quite good, and things can happen very quickly over the next couple of days, especially when that moon goes into Taurus, creeps up on Uranus, and we get that hot sextile right there between Uranus and Mars. The moon comes in, and things that have been backed up for a while can be dealt with, and rather quickly. You'll be surprised at how quickly some of these home projects will resolve themselves. I also feel like just today in general, people are looking ever so briefly at their emotional ties and feeling somewhat vulnerable around some of those emotional ties. If you're a mother, I would say that perhaps the last 14 hours, you might have been over-mothering a little bit, but that's okay. With the moon Chiron conjunction, it's to be expected, right? It's strange here because there's a high value of protection and security for the emotions, but at the same time, the moon in Aries is very impatient, so it's very mixed messagey. This Chiron moon conjunction, there's care, but it's also whose cares matter more, right? With the Chiron moon conjunction, when you're especially in Aries, is it your cares and what's important to you on an emotional level, or are you taking into account the other person and what their emotional needs are? And so there's just not a lot of, yesterday particularly, there just wasn't a lot of patience. Well, today is kind of starting off that way. But by the time we get into the latter part of the day, I guess for you folks over in Europe or wherever you are, the tension, because there's some tension. I'm not going to lie here with this moon Mars square. There is definitely some tension. But it begins to ease off midday, and I would say do your best to work off the tension. Here in the United States, of course, we're at war with everybody. We're with Mexico, we're with Canada, we're with Colombia. Let's see, who else are we at war with? We're at war with DEI. Like Donald Trump has become a war president. We're not even in a war, but that's what it's been like for almost going on 2 weeks now, which is crazy. And today's one of those days where people all of a sudden are going to wake up and they're gonna try to push back. You're going to start to see kind of an organized, but it's going to be sloppy, organized front against Trump and the Republicans. It's just it doesn't have the same juice and cohesion that it did in 2016, right? Like it's when you find something out and it's shocking and you sort of throw everything in the kitchen sink at it. Like that was 2016. They're going to try this again, but it's not going to be very, very successful. Well, you know, revolution is kind of in the air. Let's talk about the sun, 15. So it's right at that midpoint now in Aquarius, hanging out in that Gemini decam. Boy, is society schizophrenic or what? Coming in fast. Also, Mercury right behind here pretty soon, but coming in fast in that square with Uranus. And of course, Uranus is the ruler of Aquarius, but it is very, very disruptive. And as the sun continues to move closer and closer towards this tight square with Uranus, which is now direct, you're going to see more and more people do stupid revolutionary shit, right? You're going to see it. The other thing too is the land. Let's talk about the land. I think we're headed into some earthquake territory here with the Sun Uranus square, right there, and look for those tremblers to start happening over the next 7 to 10 days. And I think we already had a pretty significant one. Where was it? It was in Italy, but I think more are coming. You know, I'm actually surprised that we haven't had more tectonic carnage with Uranus in Taurus, but maybe it saves the best for last when we get out to those final 2 degrees, the 27th and 28th degree. Maybe that's where things go very destabilized before it goes into ever more stable Gemini. Uranus Gemini is going to be a trip. Can we just agree upon that now? It is going to be a freaking trip. All right, let me go back. Zoom out. Hold on. Zoom out. There we go. Let's zoom out a little bit more. So because Jupiter is still retrograde, it's getting ready to station, and then it's going to go direct again, right? But because of the degree, we're talking about the degree now. Neptune is entered into a square with Jupiter, right? So it's just a very, very, very wide. Saturn's still in that square as well. Well, I guess it's just Saturn taking Neptune with it. Jupiter is still about 2 degrees out of that square. I don't think it goes back far enough. I think it stops at 11. Well, thank God we have enough. We have enough on our plate with the Jupiter Saturn square. How's everybody doing with your expenditures? Are you buying what you need to buy? Pretty much only what you need to buy. We've been talking about that for a while. Oh, that is yesterday's chart. Whoa, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate that. I don't know why it's there. Well, we're going to go back in here. Rewind. Peachy's fault. I'm going to blame your cat. Let's see. Let's go back here. Yes. There we go. Most of that is still true, by the way. There we go. Let's see. Where are we? Yeah, down here. Okay, hold on. Let's do this. All right. Let's go back here. And, this is a occupational hazard. There we go. There it is. All right. Let's go back. There we go. All right. Yes. Yeah, we're almost there. Yes. Now we're cooking. Yeah, the moon is here. We go. There we go. She's in a much more docile place now, isn't she? There it is. There we go. Yes, it's all coming in now. Hey, wrong chart, wrong chart. There we go. Zoom in. That's it. All right. I feel much more peaceful. But we're still dealing with this Sun-Uranus square. That's still happening. Right. That is definitely still on. That Saturn-Jupiter square is still on. And Jupiter, yeah, she's gone direct. There we go. Beautiful. That's what we're looking at. Right there. All right. Resetting the table. Now, Mercury is starting to come into the mix now, right? We've got this Mercury moon square, and we have Mercury coming up on. So the tables are upset here, right? This is we're coming into prime fixed tension. Something has got to give here with prime fixed tension. The money situation should be interesting today. One of the things that came up yesterday as we go back in time for the last 16 minutes that you can memory wipe, but not all. Yesterday, people were starting to get freaked out about Social Security. That's really another part of this, like, Moon Chiron conjunction that we had yesterday. People were sending me texts yesterday. Are they gonna dump Social Security? I need Social Security. If I don't have it, I'm fucked, right? So there was a lot of that insecurity and tension. Today is in some ways better because the moon is moving into a much more favorable position with Taurus. But again, we're fraught with tension, and money now is coming to the forefront here. And this whole budget cutting thing is going to be under huge scrutiny today. So I don't know if you've been following that they're starting to cut off the money to go to USAID, USAID, which is basically it's a money front for the CIA. And that's one of the things that they're starting to cut from their budget, right? So you're going to just hear more and more complaints and laments now with this Moon Pluto square. And one of the things that has been kind of in the air is that people have been feeling quite insecure in some ways about Trump and his tariff deal. It's actually proving to be a fairly effective strategy in terms of negotiation, right? But a lot of people's financial fears are going to come to the surface today with this square. Yesterday was different. Yesterday was emotional vulnerability fraught with some tension, right? Today is we have this kind of intense interaction between Pluto and the moon. And not just Pluto and the moon. We got Mercury coming in here squares. So I would say the general overall theme here is you want to throw shit away, right? Like there's just so much static and tension between the sun and Mercury and Pluto and the moon something has to give, right? Something has to give here. I would say that offloading things that you no longer need is it'd be a pretty important and healthy and healing act, right? Whenever we get into that moon in Taurus, we get into deep attachment to physical property and things we identify with. Wow, this is actually very, very intense. Now, Jupiter will help. Jupiter will help today. I'm just hitting all kinds of fucking hits today. You know what usually happens? Here's what usually happens. Tuesday is like my Monday, right? And I work out my Mondays on Tuesday. By the time Wednesday rolls around, I've got my shit together, and we'll have a perfect show. Here's what I am going to do. I am going to start a perfect show tally starting tomorrow. I'm going to have a perfect show tally. So that means that I'm going to be here on time, have the right chart, which I usually do, and show the chart every single step of the way so you know what I'm talking about. So tomorrow we are going on a perfect show roll. And I'm going to have a perfect show tally. At the end of the show, I'm going to mark it. Today was a perfect show. Now, content-wise, that's for you to decide. But execution-wise, that's on me. Here we go. Now that Jupiter is direct, you can blame it all on Jupiter. Now that Jupiter is direct, I can take full possession of the flow of the show. Let's talk about Jupiter. Mercury's trining Jupiter. The sun is trining Jupiter. You got big plans? Make them happen. Right? This is now a time to execute on the big plan. As some of you know, I've been I'm actually working with a web guy. And so we're working on a new robertphoenix.com website. And really look, there's a time where you don't want to deal with this shit. It's like, I've got other things to do. I just, there's too much on my plate. And then there's a time where it's like, okay, roll up your sleeves and get it done. And today is one of those roll up your sleeves. No, it's not just today. Like, now is the time. Because Jupiter retrograde has not been it's not been great with just expanding and moving. Look, Jupiter is in its detriment anyway in Gemini. So you've got all these fires burning with Jupiter and Gemini, right? Or you've got all these plates spinning with Jupiter and Gemini. They're just easier to spin when Jupiter is moving forward. So thank God for that. But there's still this revolutionary energy in the air. I was projecting yesterday into today, right? People aren't happy. Right? There's a general sense of insecurity. I'm going to bring it up again, right? The general sense of insecurity. It has to do with money, possessions, things that you're holding tight, right? Over here, there are these forces that theoretically threaten that security. I guess you're going to have to figure out ways in which to make sure that nobody gets your stash of silver or stash of gold or whatever. The other thing too is like there's a real imminent threat in the air to physical currency. I mean, this is also very much connected. I mean, just look at all this tension over here. There's a real threat to physical currency, and it's in the air. And the Trumps are fucking running. They're like running these pumps now. I don't know if you've seen this, but like they're heavily invested in Ethereum. Like somebody's given the Trumps. It's kind of like in Back to the Future, where Biff gets the baseball scores or the sports scores, and he gets the time machine, and he's able to go back and make a shit ton of money. Somebody has given the Trumps the keys to the gas on crypto. Gee, I wonder who that is. But if it's not Elon Musk, it's like his buddies, because it feels now like the Trumps are pulling all these levers behind the scenes. Well, it's not really behind the scenes. You can kind of see it, but it's happening. And if you think about like an old city, where steam was really important, because there were cities that actually like had lots of steam heat and steam power as part of their heating system. You would have these like cadres of men, like, turning these giant wheels and pulling these levers. And like, this was really hard work. It was called working in a fucking steam room, right? Like, they would have them on ships. It was very, very intense work. But it feels like the Trumps now have the keys to these steam rooms where they've got all these levers and they're pushing all this gas. And so as this happens, you're seeing this just incredibly seismic reaction to the crypto markets, because they're being artificially stimulated, simulated, pumped, and dumped, right? Everybody seems to, like, but the challenge here is that you can follow the Trumps as a stalking horse, right? But what they're doing and how they're getting in, either on certain coins, they're ahead of everything. And this is one of the things that can be really frustrating with crypto, is that there's just, it's kind of like, early IPOs. You have to be in on a coin before other people are in on the coin to be able to get sort of the prime benefits of it. And you can ride the pump for about a week or 2 weeks now. But by the time it opens for everybody else to come in, it's almost too late, right? So this is one of the frustrating things about cryptocurrency. Everybody's trying to ride this kind of Mavericks wave, and just when they think they're about to get in, the pump and dump cycles are getting closer and closer, right? They're also getting harder and harder to predict. They're also getting harder and harder. Well, they're not getting harder and harder to predict because they're getting shorter, but they're getting harder and harder to take advantage of. So, people who didn't get out about a week ago, they took a bath. They took a bath with their virtual money, right? So I really feel like that this moon today is also talking. We're talking about this, and this is part of our discussion. What has value? This is an important theme, because this moon is like fucking stressed. Like, what has value in your life, right? Is it a digital coin that goes up by 100, and then you have to sell it quickly so you can get out, and like, does that have value in your life, the time that you spend and dedicate to that? And some people do. Some people are good at it. Some people build bots. Some people are, they're algorithm junkies. And I feel like with the moon today, hey, look, we're coming back into that sextile with Mars, which again I think is great, because we talked about this earlier. Rewind the tape. If you've been having issues around your home and you need to deal with them, they get done. And I'll say this: we're gonna bring these two worlds together. That if you have to spend money in order to get the thing done, go ahead and do it. Just go ahead and do it. You can shop around and you can find people who might be cheaper, but what's important with the moon and Taurus is going to be quality. So if you have to spend more to get something done, go ahead and do it. Spend it, get it done, make it happen. Right? That kind of rounds off our previous conversation. We have all of our Pisces planets over here hanging out. Here's Venus in Aries getting ready to eventually do its retrograde job. So things are kind of hot. Venus in Aries is hot, right? Sextile Pluto. Ooh la la, look at that. Well, that's kind of cool. That's going to retrograde. That's going to go into Pisces. That's going to go into deep freeze, right? So I would say enjoy it while it's hot, because when it's retrograde, it's not. that's going to definitely cool out here. And the Venus retrograde in Pisces it can be a little tricky, right? You kind of lose faith. Like you lose faith in your connections with certain people, right? So what's the most important connection of all? It's your connection with God. So Venus retrograde kind of gets you to think about that. It's like, okay, well, this is out of my hands. What do I do? Well, I'm just going to let go and let God. That's the plan here. Let go and let God. Venus retrograde. It's out of your hands. Let it go. Let it go. So hopefully we righted the ship today, and tomorrow we start our day of unprecedented perfect shows. Unprecedented perfect shows. Okay, what else do we have here before I jump over to our star of the day? You know, we're still heavily into this Aquarian period, right? I mean, we don't have that Aquarian moon like we did last week, that new moon, which was crazy. Like we had that new moon when all the plane stuff and all the jet stuff and the copter stuff was happening. And you know what's interesting? We'll talk about this on 15 Minutes of Flame. The copter pilot was a woman, right? And this goes back into the astrology of the day. The copter pilot was a woman, and it was a new moon in Aquarius. And she wasn't just any kind of pilot. She was definitely on the she was definitely on the DEI tab. But I would say this would be more like lifestyle, right? Like if you look at the pictures of Rebecca Loback, like there's some interesting lifestyle pictures. It's just it's you know, it's really weird. Like I stayed up last night, probably too late, watching this guy talking about his induction into Delta Force and what they have to do, right? And this guy is like not somebody you'd want to mess with. You know, this is hardcore, you know, cream of the crop, a psychopath with empathy, very functional military dude, right? That they stick into these situations that are very difficult for other people to deal with, right? That's the highest standard in a lot of ways. And then somewhere down the ranks, you get sort of the grunt, you know, but the grunt is still a grunt. And there is this idea that, you know, in the military that you would be a grunt, if, you know, or you would be somebody that would, you kind of grind things out, right? And the face of the military has changed drastically. And Rebecca Loback now has become the face of a military that, well, is getting people to really reevaluate what we're doing with the military. And that happened on the weird thing about that is like it was very lunar because it was a mystery. Right? We didn't know. Like, okay, well, we kind of knew because, well, they're taking a long time to release the name of this person. Well, why were they doing that? They're scrubbing the fucking internet. So anything that was associated with her that could be, and there's still stuff out there, which we'll get into, that could be used against her or against their program or against their system, they wanted to really limit. It's not that they weren't going to release her name. They had to. They just had to cover as many tracks as possible as they possibly could. That was all under the Aquarian moon. Who is it? What's going on here? Right? Is it this trans? Like there was another person who was trans who literally had to come out and say, "This is not me." And that all started under the Aquarian moon because it's just so weird, right? Well, we're still in Aquarianville, and things are still weird, and we're desperately trying to ground them with this moon in Taurus, and it's not easy because these are realities in collision. Right? This is a physical reality. This is a non-physical reality. So this is the point of reconciliation. But it's again, It's fraught with tension. Also, finances, like dealing with your home, like dealing, and maybe this bleeds into like working on your home and getting shit done and having to spend money in order to do that. That's a point of tension. And you and the people that are in your household may not agree on the same approach. Somebody may want something done cheaper. Don't cheap out. Do not cheap out. You will pay the price for it later. Trust me on this. If you're working on any home projects, do not cheap out. Home finances are they're on the table here. It's not just in terms of repair either. You know, people are freaking out. Like, how are we going to make this work? You know, is there going to be more money available? Are the fucking price of eggs ever going to come down? You know, when you get into this moon and you get into, well, I don't care if it's the Aries moon or the Taurus moon, right? You're still dealing with this primal foundational connection with like security and property and you know, this is all root related material, especially in Taurus. So today they're shaking things up, right? Shaking things up. Don't cheap out, and make sure that you have sort of the best that you can afford. And if it causes issues or whatever on the home front, you're just going to have to deal with it and work through it. Okay, I think we righted the ship here. We can talk more about Jupiter direct tomorrow. And we can bring that into the conversation because that is a kind of a major thing, right? Jupiter is retrograde for half of its day, which is, you know, and it's always like, okay, we're going to get like the first, I don't know, like 3.5 months or whatever, first 3 months, Jupiter direct, then we get a long Jupiter retrograde period, then we'll cap it off here with like another, you know, 3 more months of Jupiter direct, right? So it's you know it's retrograde for almost half its day. But now, because it was up to what, like 23, 24, which is again, you know, half the distance between where we're stationed and went retrograde. Like it's like almost half the entire, you know, degree of the sign. So I think we have a direct now until June, where it moves into Cancer. I like Jupiter in Cancer. Jupiter in Cancer is going to be an interesting time in terms of like what's happening domestically, in terms of prosperity, in terms of maybe getting the home market rolling again. You know, because by that time Saturn's going to be, you know, trending into Aries, Neptune's going to be trending into Aries, and Jupiter's going to square those planets, right? So there's going to be a real like tug of war and a real battle as to who controls the interest rates and who controls the housing market. So it's going to be very interesting, but we're getting way ahead of our game and way ahead of ourselves. All right, let's bring in our True Hemp Science star of the day and see if we can salvage the first 14 minutes of the show. All right, get into the banners. Here we go. And your True Hemp Science star of the day is none other than Alice Cooper. What a strange and interesting man. Of course, you know the drill. If you spend $100 or more over at truehempscience.com, you will get the goodie bag. Type in 15MINS and you'll get those free goodies coming at you. Chris is working on some new not sleep gummies, just gummies in general. And looking forward to those. Looking forward to trying the new gummies. The gummies are the bomb, but there are other things there as well. And all you got to do is go to truehempscience.com, check out their website, check out all their products. If you spend $150 more, you're going to get free shipping. There's always a 30-day money-back guarantee and somebody there to help you through your CBD choices. TrueHempScience.com. Well, the TrueHempScience.com star of the day is Alice Cooper. And he's very complex. Look at this chart. It is fraught with complexity. So where do we start with Alice Cooper? Why don't we start with the ascendant? Now, he's Libra rising. You wouldn't notice it. You wouldn't say that he was Libra rising by looking at him. But there's a story about when he was born in Detroit, Michigan, and then his family, I believe, moved to Arizona, if I'm not mistaken. And he in high school, Alice Cooper was kind of a dandy, right? Like he dressed incredibly well. Whatever money he had, he spent on clothing and was very stylish. And he got other guys at his school to be stylish, which to me is very Libra rising. Right? He was kind of a clothes horse in high school. And eventually he somehow matriculates into rock and roll. Now, to understand Alice Cooper, you have to understand he's also the son of a minister. He grew up in a religious family. And Alice Cooper, to this day, will tell you he's a Christian. And I scratch my head when I think about it, because his shtick is not very Christian, right? His shtick has been dark, to say the least, in many ways, right? But if you follow Alice Cooper's career, what you'll see with Neptune is that for a while he comes upon this character, Alice, right? And it's almost like he becomes possessed by Alice. By the way, his name is Vincent Fernier. That's his birth name. He becomes possessed by Alice. And it was the Alice Cooper band, and they dropped the band part, and eventually it just became Alice Cooper. And so when you have Neptune on your ascendant, your identity is really fluid and a bit theatrical. Now, again, if you follow his career path, Alice Cooper tries to reinvent himself along the way. Like he goes through his alcohol phase, and from the inside, right, where he's talking about recovery from alcohol. Alice Cooper was not a heavy cocaine user, right? Alice Cooper drank beer. He drank copious amounts of beer. Alice Cooper was always seen with a beer in his hand. And eventually he winds up going into rehab because I think he probably drank hard liquor as well. But beer was his thing, right? But if you look at him, he goes through these phases where he's like trying to reinvent himself. He does this kind of like Gary Newman style record called Flash the Fusion or something like that. And he's got shorter hair and he looks like this new romantic sort of figure. So Alice has always been in this phase of reinvention. And it's this Neptune on his ascendant that he tries to reinvent himself and take on these new characters. But at the core of it, it's always Alice. Right? So we have a Sun Neptune trine, and he's actually a really nice guy. Anybody who's ever met Alice Cooper loves him because he's a nice guy. The scary, freaky, weird part of Alice Cooper isn't really like who you get. Who you get is like a super nice guy. And he's also it's odd. He's just such an odd duck because he's like really religious. Over here you've got this Sun Uranus trine. Well, he's got to be different, right? He's going to be different. He's going to be kind of ahead of the curve. And again, you throw that Neptune in there, there's going to be times where he's got to reinvent himself to sell more records. But this is a very interesting chart, right? So we have two kite patterns. We have one here, and then we have one here. So it's a really powerful chart. He's got a grand rectangle, right there. Sun, Moon, Sun, Uranus, Pluto, Saturn, these oppositions. There's a lot going on. He's also very faithful. He's been married to the same woman his entire life, right? And they're both Christians, and they both their parents were ministers, right? Venus and Pisces. And, I think Venus and Pisces has probably saved his ass in being in a marriage where he was faithful, and it's paid off for him, right? He's a guy that's given to excess. Jupiter, Moon, Sagittarius, third house, right? Excess. So we don't really see that with the kind of the affliction to Neptune, but he's more. And the other thing I think that's interesting is Alice Cooper is actually a really good athlete too. I mean, for a while he was like a scratch golfer, and that he's got that Mercury in the fifth house, so he likes to play, right? He enjoys his sports and his pastimes. His true node in Taurus in the eighth house is really interesting too, because for me, this like taps him into this underworld. He's sort of like this, first Gothic kind of musical character. I mean, there were some people from the 50s that were kind of weird, right? But he's tapping into this like kind of dark Gothic energy, and it pays off for him. It definitely pays off. I mean, literally, it pays off for him, but also his ability to kind of go there, right, and tap into this, it's kind of this underworld vibe, and it's shock. This is the one thing about Alice Cooper is that he mastered like shock value. So the Uranus in the ninth house, it's kind of shocking. This is a really, really, and I tell you right now, there's more to him that we don't know, right? There's a lot more to him, and that because with all these squares and oppositions, this is a very complex character trying to with all these very divergent energies. And I would say he's probably done a pretty good job. He's still alive. Like a lot of his contemporaries are dead. He's not dead. He's still married to the same woman. He's still touring, and he's got a great attitude. So whatever challenges and conflicts that he's had to endure, he's come out of them. And I think a lot of this has to do with the Sagittarian part. If you have strong Sagittarian energy, there's a chance you'll land on your fucking feet most of the time. And I think he has this ability, and especially with these trines, like the Moon Pluto trine. I tell you what about this Moon Pluto trine, especially Sag to Leo. That's loyalty. There are people in his life that are loyal to him, and I think those relationships and that loyalty has probably pulled his ass out of the fryer numerous times. Now, this Sun, Saturn, Pluto opposition, that's interesting, right? Like Saturn's the father, and his father was a minister. He's going in a different direction, right? He's going to be a preacher of the high excess of rock and roll in terms of its visual presentation, if not its lifestyle. Right, so Alice Cooper is a very interesting character, very complex guy. But if you want to focus on one detail that sums him up, it's Neptune. It's Neptune on his ascendant, where he literally has channeled this character, this being, Alice, since he decided that he was going to put on the mascara and get the attention of people who weren't paying attention to the band. It's a complex guy. I like his chart. Even this, like, I'm looking at his Moon Neptune sextile. That's his wife, right? That's this kind of like loving compassion. Okay, we're going to get through this together. I wonder if she threatened to leave him at a certain point. She might have. With this Venus Uranus square. She might have said, "You get it together. If you don't dry out, I'm out." And I think he knew he had a good thing. All right, thanks for putting up with. There we go. Here's the chart right there. Let's just go over it. Neptune on the ascendant, right there. Boom. Right there. There's his Neptune. There's that Uranus. There's that Mars. There's that Grand Trine. There's that kite pattern. There's that double kite pattern. Right. This is just fraught with complexity. but he works it out, right? And again, I'm going to go with this moon, part of fortune, Sagittarius, Jupiter, third house, right? He somehow always lands on his fucking feet, right? There's the shock value, Sun Uranus trine, that Sun Neptune trine. He's a nice guy. Everybody loves Alice, right? Like if you go through and watch a shit ton of music videos, like if you watch videos about Eddie Van Halen, it will take you maybe 3 videos to find somebody who doesn't have something all that flattering to say about Eddie Van Halen. David Lee Roth, all these rock stars. You'll run into videos where it's like, oh yeah, the guy's an asshole, or he stole my tune, or whatever, right? You're not going to find that with Alice Cooper. Like you're not going to find a bunch of videos where Alice Cooper was a real dick. He treated me like a dick, or Alice Cooper stole my song. You won't find that. Like it's just who the guy is, right? He's just naturally a nice guy, right? He's got shit to work out, obviously, in this chart, but he's a nice guy. And again, pay attention to that Neptune. That Neptune is Alice, right? He channeled that. Whoever this Alice person was, that was like an entity. That was like a spirit, right? What are you not seeing everything here? Don't see the Cooper's chart. Yeah, it's there. I don't know what's wrong with it. Right, I can see it. Can't you see it? It's right there. Anyway, there's your True Hemp Science start of the day, Alice Cooper. And by the way, I'm going to play some Alice Cooper over on 15 Minutes of Flame. All right, thanks for being here. Thanks for getting through the first the Mondays, getting through my Mondays here. Tomorrow, we vow to do better. And it's going to be a long string of perfect shows. A long string of perfect shows. I'm a Virgo, damn it. I've got to live up to it. All right, Chatari, you're the best. Thanks for being patient. Treat each other well. God bless. Have a great day. Bye for now.